Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader. Yet another comic book countdown. I have 10 comics this week that I picked up from not the newsstand, from the comic book store that I want to tell you about, ranking them in my usual subjective way, giving you a few thoughts on each. Before I dive deeply into that, I want to mention that this coming Saturday night, I think it's February the 8th, is it? Or the 7th? I'm not sure. Coming this Saturday night, I will be on Everything Comics for a live round table with all of us Portland-based YouTubers in one room chatting about our favorite villains and other things going on in our collecting lately. So if you want to catch that, make sure you're subscribed to Everything Comics. I'll put a link down below. Run by Bullseye Bob, the mighty Bullseye Bob. So a channel everyone should check out anyway if you haven't already. Well, I think a lot of my regular viewers have checked him out by now. So I'm excited to see what that'll be like. And as some of you may know, if you watched our first four-way hangout, we plan to do this maybe about every 6 weeks, I think. So maybe the next one will be on my channel or on Sam's Tangled Webs channel. So we'll see how that goes. So mostly a very enjoyable week in comics. Coming in at number 10 was one I just grabbed out of curiosity off the shelf, Frankenstein Undone. Yet another miniseries. It says from the world of Hellboy. Written by Mike Mignola and Scott Alley and drawn by the excellent artist Ben Steinbeck, so I was looking forward to that. No longer colors by Dave Stewart, instead colors by Brandon Wagner, but although his colors have pretty much they're in the Dave Stewart kind of palette and tradition. So if I didn't know it wasn't Dave Stewart, it might have taken me a while to suspect anything. So art-wise and color-wise, I enjoyed this issue quite a bit. I didn't really get where the story was coming from. And when I read somewhere else a note that said that this is bridging between the original Frankenstein story from the novel by Mary Shelley into the Hellboy universe, and there's already been a Frankenstein story in the Hellboy universe, I guess at least one. I didn't find it a very compelling story, and I didn't get a lot out of it. So I don't know. It might be, again, if there's a slow week, I might pick it up. Maybe people who are more familiar with Hellboy. I've read a lot of Hellboy over the years, but I seem to have missed a lot too. So I don't know if that's someone I should have recognized, and that would tell me that we are now in the Hellboy universe. I've always been fascinated by the Frankenstein character, the monster, and the scientist, and this Frankenstein is the monster. But I don't know, it was heavy-handed, overdone, not giving you compelling reasons to keep reading, I guess. So that's why it's at number 10. At number 9, and maybe in a way a more disappointing comic, because I used to have really high expectations for this sequel to The Wrong Earth, Dragonfly and Dragonfly Man. But my expectations are now quite lowered after the first 2 issues. And I also picked this up off the shelf just because it was a slow week. I'd already actually dropped it from my list. And probably with good reason, because this issue was mildly entertaining, but there's so many other comics to read. The addition of Lady Dragonfly Man was kind of funny, and they came up with a good reason for her existence, which was very much in line with the old Silver Age Superman and Batman types of stories. So I thought that was cool. But otherwise, it's not super compelling to me. It might be one of these stories that by the final issue, it'll make all of what we've been sort of, that the author's been walking us through, make a lot of sense. I don't know if I want to gamble that and keep picking it up off the shelves or not. I still have the same objection that I had originally, which was the colors in the quote, 1966 style, Batman 66 style world are hardly different at all from the dark and grim colors from the other world. I don't know if you can tell just from the colors which world we're in at any given moment. So anyway, it's not a bad comic. I liked Lady Dragonfly Man. I'd love to have more of her, but nothing to get super excited about. Also, so all three of these so far. In at number 8 is Usagi Yojimbo Color Classics. The current Usagi Yojimbo is on my pull list, but this one isn't, and again, because it was a slow week, I pulled it off the rack. And I told myself I would wait and get these when they came out in hardbacks, these recolorings of the original black and white Usagi Yojimbo going back to the mid-'80s. But seeing them on the shelves, I thought, well, maybe if I really like it, it would be fun to get 2 ongoing Usagis. And so I'll check it out and see if I want to put out my pull list. But after reading it, I'm definitely less excited about it than the contemporary modern version of Usagi Yojimbo. The art is a little different, but what's somehow different to me is the pacing and the tone. I like the tone of the current one better than this old one. I'm imagining there's some point in Stan Sakai's run where he gets the rhythm of it in such a way that that is the rhythm that I now like. When that will be. I do think I want to own these in some format, but probably in trade will be fine. And it is kind of fun to see how his art style has changed. It's changed in a lot of subtle ways, I would say, from the line thickness to the way he does panels and movement. But you can see a lot of his, a lot of what became Stan Sakai's current style is foreshadowed in here for sure. So it was interesting, but it just didn't grab me the way the current ones do. Okay, and here's an odd one. I don't usually review or haven't very often reviewed these, what do you call them? Facsimile editions. This is a facsimile edition of King Size Fantastic Four number 6, I guess an annual, really, I think. Every summer they used to put out an extra comic, an extra price comic. It was probably 25 cents rather than 12 cents because kids were out of school in the summer and had more time to read comics. And I was really excited for this. I guess it's the first appearance of Annihilus, that dictator or ruler of the negative zone, or as he's presented here, he's just an immortal being who's afraid that someone will come along and steal his source of immortality, so he kills all life in his negative zone universe so that he will be safe, that his immortality will be safe. Lots of incredible visual creations by Jack Kirby here throughout, but a very rudimentary plot and very stretched out over these, 30-something pages. 48 pages of actual story. Great deal for 25 cents. And actually a pretty good deal for $4.99 even now. And I actually love the Jack Kirby art on this glossy paper. However, it does, especially in terms of the writing, and we can't necessarily blame it all on Stan Lee since Jack Kirby did a lot of the plotting, but it's a very stretched out story. It was kind of, I was ready for the story to end, I think, let's see, right about page 23 or 24. But it was fun to see Jack Kirby let loose. It made me think as I was reading it that really Kirby's stuff when he did the New Gods and Mr. Miracle was more sophisticated than all of this. It was more thought through, and he put more into it. But he didn't have the zingy dialogue the way Jack Kirby did. It was moving right at the end when their new baby is born. And I believe they do not name Franklin yet, so I guess that comes in later issues. It's also an interesting concept that the cosmic rays and their effects can be seen in their blood, sparkling in their blood, and it's in danger of killing both Sue and her baby. And it implies a lot of stuff you could do with what has the cosmic rays done to our heroes, the Fantastic Four. I can't find the scene where they show the sparkling blood. But yeah, it was cool. I was thinking, hey, this is going to be my number one, but it wasn't. So that was number 7. At number 6 was another reprint. This one, a $1 True Believers, Criminally Insane, The Absorbing Man. And this is from Journey into Mystery with Thor, number 114. It hadn't yet turned into being called The Mighty Thor with the Journey into Mystery ended. And this presents just the first story in that issue, which was a 16-pager, and then there was probably a 4 or 5 page Tales of Asgard afterwards, which we do not get in here. But I, to my surprise, I like this better than the Fantastic Four, because I don't know, it read very well. It was definitely a kid's comic, but the whole sort of setup was very cool with Loki manipulating events on Earth to get Thor, and the creation of the Absorbing Man, as I thought about it and read about it, was really kind of a cool one. And I like that he's such an ugly guy, and I guess his shirt gets shot off by the prison guards' bullets, because ever after that he is topless. And so he really is kind of a really cool creation. This kind of just brutal convict with potentially unlimited powers. And I know they did a lot of interesting things with him later on in the Kirby Lee run. He kind of gets left behind right at the end when Thor goes off at the end of the book to Asgard, where he needs to rescue Jane Foster, who's been kidnapped by Loki, which makes me really want to read the next issue. The artwork, the Jack Kirby artwork, is cruder here. I guess this is about 1964. I'm guessing that this one was 66. So there was a big jump in Kirby's artwork between that period. I think partially because they slightly lessened his load. Like maybe he was only drawing 3 comics a month instead of 6 or something. Another interesting thing is I know that a lot of these comics were really plotted by Kirby, and then Stan Lee just had to kind of put in dialogue to figure out what's going on. And there's this character that, according to the dialogue, is a reporter. And but we never see him doing anything that appears to be like reporting. And in fact, later in the story, he just shows up while the Absorbing Man and Thor are fighting, and he's got dynamite that he's trying to throw at the Absorbing Man. And of course, that doesn't work out, and Thor has to rescue him. But I really wonder, did Jack Kirby intend this person to be a reporter, or was there some whole other plot with this dynamite-throwing guy with the broken arm, or the injured arm? Is there some whole other plot that Jack Kirby might have had in mind? I guess we'll never know, unless some Jack Kirby historian has dug up what was going on in some of these. Okay, so that was a lot of fun, and in a way, I could have put both of those up higher. It was a little tricky to decide, but I decided to put Olympia number 3 at the number 5 position. I liked this issue a lot more than the other issues of Olympia. I liked Olympia enough to stick with it, but I didn't think they handled the Kirby-esque grandeur that they were supposedly homaging very well. But here, where they kind of give you the life story of a comic book artist, a very sort of sad warning, don't become a comic book artist, you'll have a bad life kind of story. Despite its depressingness, it was done really well, and it suited this artist's style a lot better than his attempts at Jack Kirby homage. So I really liked that. I really enjoyed, in a kind of sad way, the depressing story of this comic book artist / writer, I think he is, or maybe, excuse me, just an artist. It is funny because his name is, what is it? His first name is Kirby and his last name is Spiegelman, like Art Spiegelman. So Jack Kirby and Art Spiegelman combined, which is interesting. But then his mentor is named Wally Toth. And I almost thought that was taking a little too far with the insidery references. I am now really interested, after the build-up in this issue about his life, in the idea of him meeting his creation when he's at the nadir of his life, where he was about to kill himself because his life sucked so much. So it has me really looking forward to Olympia number 4. And then in at number 4, a comic that often comes in at number 1 for me was Criminal number 12, which is the final issue in this cycle, this volume of Criminal, which is a little surprising because they announced it as an ongoing that would just have a lot of different criminal stories in it. And it did. I think it, it had maybe two-part stories, or maybe two one and done and one 2-part story, and now this 8-part story called Cruel Summer. And I guess it's the longest criminal story they've ever done, and maybe they should stick with shorter ones because I thought it petered out at the end, even though it had this big tragic thing that were shown on the cover, in fact, so spoilers there. It didn't flow. It didn't have that nice shape to it that a lot of criminal stories have, in my opinion. It might be interesting to go back and read the short story in Criminal number 1 of this volume, which is kind of presaging this 8-issue story. I still liked it a lot, but it just didn't come up to the level of my expectations. So it was a little lower on my joy reading of the week meter. And I felt like there were a bunch of threads that didn't come together in terms of the various characters. It was kind of open-ended in a sense, can lead on to other stories, maybe, for some of the characters who stay alive. And then in at number 3 was the Immortal Hulk, kind of feeling like it's finally returning to form after sagging a bit. I mean, I haven't hated any Immortal Hulk issues, but it has maybe gotten too large and baggy of a story. And, that we're on the same story we've been on since issue 1, although there were a lot of one and dones along the way that just added to the story. But that we're on 30 issues, it's not really that surprising that it's gotten a little baggy and out of control. But this issue really brings in some more focus on all the main characters and the whole monster fighting stuff, and just also gives the artist, Joe Bennett, lots of opportunity to really let loose and do what he does so well. So a good sort of horrific monster tale. And leaving me looking with the revelation of who appears on the last page. Of course, he's also on the cover. Really curious what they're going to do with this character. It's been a long time since I've read a story with Zemu. I thought it was Zemu the something, but I can't remember what. Anyway, so tons of fun. And that's a really nice cover by Alex Ross. Sometimes I worry Alex Ross is doing too many covers and will burn out, but he's done a lot of great covers on the Immortal Hulk. And unlike a lot of covers that Alex Ross does, or that a lot of cover painters do, his cover paintings for the Immortal Hulk have always tied in right in lockstep with the story and what's going on inside. And I really appreciate that too. In at number 2 is James Tinian's climax of this long convoluted story about magic in the DC universe, people trying to destroy magic, trying to take its power, etc. And in this issue, Wonder Woman makes some kind of bargain with one of the magical sides of things. Maybe that bargain was more clear in the previous issue and I forgot what it was, but that allows her to, spoilers, defeat Cersei, the big bad of recent issues. As always, this series just seems to have had amazing art, great coloring, sort of the perfect modern DC comic, in my opinion. I hope that Tinian can really do the same thing with Batman. So far, this is still a much stronger book than his first 2 issues of Batman. And I know that another writer's taking over either next issue or soon. I'm hoping with the teaser given of what they're going to do next, because in the very last panel they say, I think it's time we do X. I won't spoil it, but I really want to read that story, and I'm hoping Tinian's still doing it then. I know nothing about the writer who's going to take over. What does he have? Some weird name like Ramsey or something? Sounds like some kind of New Age guru's name or something. I don't know. More teasers for Amethyst. I'm really looking forward to that. Anyway, there were moments where I kind of doubted, can they keep me interested on Justice League Dark? But they always did, and a satisfying conclusion. Fun. If you like superheroes with magic, now's the time to pick up all the back issues or get all the trades and read this whole story, or get them all digitally. Fun read to dive into. Sort of sophisticated pulp, you might say. Speaking of sophisticated pulp, this is not Confection Comics, it's Ice Cream Man, number 17. Ice Cream Man's so intense, I thought there'd been a lot more issues than 17. And this one takes another unexpected turn. We're in a world where there's a superhero named Ice Cream Man and a reporter who resembles Lois Lane named, I've lost her name. Let's see. Anyway, Parker Page. And there's a Jimmy Olsen character and a Clark Kent character and a Perry White. And as I showed you before, we get to go to some bizarro version of the Fortress of Solitude. I really loved it. To a certain extent, it played similar to an issue of All-Star Superman by Grant Morrison. But of course, in the context of Ice Cream Man, whatever that context really is, it's now we have this Ice Cream Man character is able to distort reality and turn it into his own Superman fantasy, at least for a while? Or is this an alternate universe? There's sort of a hint that maybe Ice Cream Man, or whatever he is, or the people he works with, or that he's a part of, not species, I don't know, the type of thing that he is, maybe they can create and recreate universes? I don't know. But it was really fun and ends with a cool twist, making a call out to another classic superhero. So Ice Cream Man continues to be great. I do wonder, and definitely still, maybe the best series that I read in single issues right now. I do wonder if this issue will be as significant to what I assume there's a potential segment of Ice Cream Man readers who are just horror fans and may not be that knowledgeable about the lore of Superman that they're playing off of. But maybe there's enough here that they can pick up on that and go with it. Man, where is Ice Cream Man going to go next? And will we ever really understand what it's all about? And it doesn't, I don't think it matters. I mean, it's such a fun ride, and each individual issue is such a fun read. And this one was less creepy, but there was an edge of creepiness in the background, of course. But there's been some really creepy issues lately. So I really enjoyed that. So that's it. That's everything. And I keep meaning to make more videos, but time has pressed in on me at time lately. So I have a bunch of back issues that I'd like to do a haul on. And I will be spending some of my comic book time with the gang on Everything Comics. So don't forget to check that out. Saturday night at 7, I think, Pacific Coast time. So when that would be 10 o'clock at night, East Coast time in the U.S., and God knows how late it will be in Europe. where all my best fans live. Not fans, what am I saying? I don't have any fans. My best viewers. And I'm just joking, but I love it that I have European viewers. So talk to you all later. Bye-bye.